What is up, YouTube? Welcome to PanFro Games, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the 7-star Greninja, breaking it down, talking about counters for this beast. And of course, guys, if you're new to the channel, enjoy these types of videos, please leave a like, subscribe if you're new, I really appreciate it. So we know Greninja is going to be the next raid Pokemon with the Tera, Poison, and Tera Poison is actually really good for Greninja if you didn't know, because Tera Poison is weak to Ground and Psychic. And unfortunately, Greninja actually is a water and a dark type. And we're going to assume that Greninja is going to have both a water, a dark, and a poison move, meaning it's going to be able to beat its two weaknesses of ground and psychic. Greninja has a really good special attack stat. 103, anything above 100 is a very good stat. And 103 special attack stat must be respected. But it also has a good attack stat at 95. So we are worried that this Greninja is going to be somehow a mixed attacker. It does have very frail defenses though, which is probably the only saving grace of this Tera fight. And we don't know what his ability is going to be because usually it's a hidden ability. However, Greninja has a hidden ability and a special event ability called Battle Bond. Now, Protein is whatever at the end of the day. Doesn't really work out too well for raid bosses as we saw with Cinderace. So I won't even talk about that. It's not that notable. But Battle Bond is its signature ability and it's actually pretty fantastic. If you didn't know, they changed it in Scarlet and Violet as there is no more Ash Greninja. Instead, it's going to be a +1 stat buff to attack, special attack, and speed. And that's actually a perfect ability for a mixed attacker Greninja. And that is something we're going to have to worry about when considering different Pokemon to build. And it seems like that is only going to proc once per raid battle, but who knows, they could change it for raids. We don't know how this ability actually works in raids, but reading the ability description, it says it works once per battle, so we'll have to wait and see. Now, Greninja has a phenomenal moveset, and which is why it's really hard to make counters for this thing, especially because we don't know if it's going to be all special, all physical, or a mixed attacker. But here's the notable moves for this Pokemon. Physical moves, Gunk Shot is the biggest one here because it is Tera Poison, which means it's probably going to have Gunk Shot. Or it could run Tera Blast as a special attacker and have Tera Poison for that too, and they'll actually have a special poison move. Because the only poison moves Greninja has is Gunk Shot and Toxic Spikes, right? So it really is down to just the Gunk Shot or Tera Blast at the end of the day. So we also have Liquidation, which is a phenomenal physical move. I sort of don't think it's going to have it because if it does have Gunk Shot, I do think it'll end up being a special attacker still with one physical move. Night Slash is scary. That's a stab high crit move. And Trailblaze is a grass coverage move. But outside of that, there really isn't much notable physical moves for Greninja. However, it does have Swords Dance, which does put me in a situation where I'm like, well, Swords Dance Gunk Shot does not seem really good for us, honestly. That's going to do a lot of damage. It could have Rain Dance too. It actually might, but Swords Dance is really scary. Does not get Nasty Plot though or anything like that, so that's really nice. Special side, Greninja is an absolute monster. Signature move, Water Shuriken. It's going to do a lot of damage, especially if somehow has a Rain Dance setup. That's going to really shred our team. So we got to watch out for Water Shuriken, but I do think it has a high probability of actually having. Same with Dark Pulse. It's going to be an 80 base damage move that has 20% chance of flinching. That is scary. Chilling Water, I'm not too hype on. Honestly, it could, but I don't think so. Lower attack stat by 1, but I just don't think it's actually going to have this. Extra Sensory could really be here. It doesn't cover too much, but the thing about Extra Sensory is it's a move that Greninja learned on level up, which means it sort of has a higher priority of actually learning this in its moveset than a TM move. So we got to keep that in mind as well. Grass Knot is an excellent TM move that Greninja can learn, and that will absolutely wreck our water counters for it that have Water Absorb and Storm Drain. So we got to sort of watch out for that, but I honestly don't think it's going to have Grass Knot. Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, I think are two lock-in moves. If it does go special, then Hydro Pump and Ice Beam are both moves that we can definitely see on the Greninja. And Tera Blast is almost like 100% lock-in just because it doesn't have a good poison moveset outside of a Gunk Shot. So it's like 50-50 between Gunk Shot and Tera Blast. And now let's dive into the Pokemon counters for Greninja. And now for our counters to the 7-star Greninja. So once again, I'll say, we don't know the moveset of Greninja. We do not know if it's a mixed attacker or not. So we're going in with very little information. So of course, this information is going to change, and I will make an updated guide once we do know what the Greninja is going to have for the absolute best counters. So to begin, I'm in love with Vaporeon here. Vaporeon, it doesn't matter what the Tera type really is. I just have a Psychic just in case we get there. But we're going to have a Twisted Spoon. This increase the damage of Psychic moves by 1.2 times, which is going to be pretty good. Because this moveset is going to be pretty much exactly like the Slowbro's moveset that we used in the Cinderace series, but slightly worse. So one, we're going to have Water Absorb as our ability. That's very important. That's going to make it so we're immune to all of the water moves. But not only that, we recover HP too. So we know Greninja is definitely going to have water moves, and we're going to get some HP back, and that's going to be really helpful for our sustain in general. We're going to want to rock the max HP, max special attack with a modest nature, and that's going to give us a lot of damage. If Vaporeon has a really good special attack stat and a really good HP stat, the defense and special defense stats are a little bit lacking, but with that high HP stat, Vaporeon is going to be taking a lot of hits either way. And you can put the 4 extra stats in either Spadef or defense. Doesn't really matter because we don't know exactly what this Greninja is going to have. I just put in defense just in case. So the move set we're going to run is going to be a stored power set. And if you don't know what stored power does, stored power is an incredible move, as this move does more damage based on how many more stat buffs that you actually have. And Vaporeon has a bunch of stat buffing moves. And it's going to be a super effective move because the Greninja is a poison type Pokemon. So if we do 1 acid armor, that's going to increase our defense by +2. And that's going to give our stored power base damage from 20 to 60. So you can see how if we max out on acid armors, this is going to do a lot of damage. And we have Calm Mind as well. So these are going to be the 2 very important moves here. If the Greninja is all special, then Calm Mind's going to have a lot more value in terms of the special defense. If it's all physical, then Acid Armor has more value because it's all defense. But if it's mixed, then both of these have a lot of value. But of course, Calm Mind actually increases our special attack stat, which means we're going to do more damage on top of our stored power base damage getting boosted too. Unfortunately, Vaporeon does not have Nasty Plot, but this is the best we can do with this thing. However, what Vaporeon has that Slowbro didn't have is Fake Tears, which will lower the Spadef stat of the Greninja by 2, which is actually pretty massive because Slowbro could not debuff. It always needed supporter. So let's say you go into a random raid battle of 4 Vaporeons, then at the very least, you know the Vaporeons are going to have Fake Tears, and they can actually debuff the Greninja, so at least 1 Vaporeon can start stacking buffs and then take out the opponent. You can even have 2 Vaporeons try to stack debuffs, and then 2 Vaporeons try to buff themselves, and then 2 and 2 should be enough to take out the Greninja because it is rather frail at the end of the day. And of course, like I said, Twisted Spoon is going to increase that damage on stored power. Next up is Gastrodon, who is another great option for this raid because it has the ability Storm Drain, which means we're going to be able to draw in water moves and increase our special attack stat, which means we're going to be immune to waters, which takes out 1 whole weakness from us here. And because we are a ground type, we resist poison, which is going to be great. So we really just got to worry about the dark moves that we know of. And we're going to be running max HP, max special attack with a modest nature. Similar to Vaporeon, it's going to be more offensive. However, Gastrodon can be ran as a more defensive Pokemon. But because we're going more offensive, I'm going to go with Soft Sand here. Soft Sand will increase the damage of ground moves by 1.2 times. And we're going to be running Earth Power, which is going to be a stab ground move for us to use. Now, we also have Acid Armor here, which is going to increase our defense by 2, or we can run Amnesia, which will increase our special defense stat by 2 as well. So if it's a mixed attacker, both of these are going to be great, but if it's only physical, then you only need Acid Armor. If it's only special, then you only need Amnesia, which is why I really like Gastrodon. It does have incredible defense buffing moves so you can survive long in a fight. Now, Recover is going to give us some self-sustain, which is going to be pretty nice as well. And we actually also learned the moves Clear Smog. I believe Clear Smog is going to be a egg move, which you can do with a Mirror Herb at a base. And the reason why Clear Smog is also good in this raid is because, as I mentioned before, Greninja having Battle Bond, if it starts stat buffing itself with Battle Bond or even Swords Dance, then Gastrodon can end up playing more of a support role. So you could probably go max HP, max defense, or max HP, half defense, half Spadef, and then you can be using Clear Smog to put in check this Greninja, which I do think Gastrodon has a lot of flexibility here, which I really do like it. And next up, we have Clodsire, and Clodsire is going to be a awesome support Pokemon for this raid. I saw some people try to run Clodsire as a physical attacker, and I'm not the biggest fan of this thing being a damage dealer, but this thing is super bulky. It's going to provide great support for this raid, and I think Leftover is going to be the best item for it, so it's just going to give it more sustain. So I'm going to be running max HP, max Spadef with a plus Spadef nature, minus attack nature for Clodsire with Water Absorb. Once again, we get hit by a water move, we get our HP back, going to give us that great sustain. Now, the big thing about Clodsire that I like about this, it has Acid Spray. An Acid Spray, once again, lowers the special defense stat of the opponent by 2 stages, but it also goes through shields because it is a damaging move. Same thing with Chilling Water. It's a damaging move, so the attack drop will go through the shield, which is really nice. And I'll really like both of these moves for Clodsire. Now, you also get Earth Power to do some real damage, and, you know, with enough Acid Sprays, your Earth Power, even without any investment, will do some good damage in its stab, and it's super effective, and it could be a -6 Greninja, so that's going to be pretty great as a damaging support role. And you get Recover, which is going to be pretty nice too. You also get a move called Amnesia. Once again, increases your SPDEF stat by 2. You also get Curse, which will increase your attack and defense by +1 as well. I don't think Curse is that good just because we want to go more on a special side. I know Clodsire has a better physical attack, but Clodsire doesn't have a way to drop defense, and Acid Spray is too good of a move to pass up in this raid series, so I do highly recommend going with the Acid Spray set. No matter what, Acid Spray, Earth Power, I think are 2 locks on your Clodsire, and then you really get to decide on the last 2 moves here. But personally, that's what I'm going to be going with if I run the Clodsire in this raid series. Now, next up is going to be Umbreon. And Umbreon, I really like here because Umbreon is going to be great as a support for both physical and special attackers. And I'm just having a set as an example. No damaging moves here, just to show off how powerful this thing's moveset can be. So I went max HP, max defense with a bold nature, and I put 4 EVs into SPDEF just in case. Because it already has such a naturally high SPDEF, I wanted to increase the defense more, just in case this Greninja had a lot more physical moves, but, you know, obviously you can fix that later before the raid. So here's the big thing about Umbreon. Umbreon gets both Reflect and Light Screen, but it also gets Screech and Fake Tears. So Fake Tears, as we already know, that from Vaporeon, it lowers his BF by 2. Screech does the same thing, but for defense, lowers defense by 2. So you have dual screens and dual drop of defense and special defense. So Umbreon can really pair with any one Pokemon team. And once we figure out the meta, you can make your Umbreon even better by picking the correct things. But the fact that Umbreon has all the options and insane bulk is going to make this thing an absolute beast. Of course, this Pokemon gets Helping Hand as well, so once you're done putting your screens up, if you need both screens, who knows, and once you're done debuffing, you can start Helping Hand your main attacker and have them take out the Pokemon for you. The ability doesn't really matter on Umbreon. I just keep Synchronized just in case something happens. What if we get paralyzed? I don't know how we're going to get paralyzed, but I'm just saying, it doesn't really matter. This thing's going to be an absolute beast. It's not going to die, and you do resist dark moves, so I think it's going to be really valuable. Now, this last Pokemon, I think, is going to be a little bit controversial, but I'm bringing it because I think Umbreon is such a good Screech supporter that if we ran 3 Umbreons with Screech, we could run Iron Hands with Booster Energy. And the reason why I'm bringing out Iron Hands here is Iron Hands is one of the few Pokemon in the game right now that has Belly Drum, but it also is the Pokemon that has Belly Drum in the game that has the highest attack stat as well. And we're going max HP, max attack with an Adamant Nature and Quark Drive. Quark Drive is going to give us a 1.3 attack boost while we have the item Booster Energy on too. And all we really need is Belly Drum and Earthquake. Belly Drum, we maximize our attack by sacrificing half our HP. And then we have a base 100 super effective move here with +6 attack and Booster Energy on top of that. That's going to do a lot of damage. And if it's a -6 Greninja, that Greninja's dead. So that's pretty much all we're going to really need with Iron Hands here, and it's going to be phenomenal. We don't even need Drain Punch. I just have it here because you always want Drain Punch on it. And I like Focus Energy because if you somehow find yourself having a move, you know, let's say you do turn 1 Belly Drum and then turn 2, you Focus Energy because, you know, the Greninja removed its stat debuff, so like they need to re-debuff and get him to -6. You have a free turn. You don't need to attack cheer or something. You could Focus Energy, and Focus Energy gives you a higher chance of getting a crit, and if you hit an Earthquake with a crit, it's gonna kill for sure at +6. So that's just an option. You don't need it. You may be better going with an attack cheer, but that's something I thought of, like, that could actually be really good to pretty much have like a really high chance of getting a critical hit on this Greninja. Well, guys, those are the 5 Pokemon I recommend building right now for the Greninja Raid series. I think these Pokemon are all pretty solid options too. And of course, once we actually figure out what this Greninja has move-wise, we'll have better counters, more optimized counters. But these are some 5 Pokemon that you can think about and build. Of course, you can wait until the raid actually comes out before you finish these builds, because I understand how expensive candy is, and EV items and EV training is. But hey, if you want to start now, go for it. These are all going to be solid Pokemon, and I'm sure they'll all need some sort of tweaking as well. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe if you're new. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out, and have a great one.